you, Ed, with us
Thank you.
and sharing with the community the impact of COVID in our mental health. So we'll start with first, we would like to address the statistic. Anything new, Sister Edlin, as far as the statistic with vaccination and also infection with COVID?
Yes. So for the infection, we have a total of 7,720 people that get infected this week. So it's the past 24 hours, and we have 173 people that lost their life from COVID. Well, from the state of Maryland, we have 461,953 people. Um, and for people that lost their life, it's 9,512. So it's a lot of people that losing their life from the state of Maryland. So it's almost 10,000. So people can say, but it's not a lot, but those 10,000 could be prevented. Um, for the vaccine, so we have no progress. So it's still we have like 43. It's it's 43% of people that get vaccinated in the state of Maryland. For Wakamiko, we have 38% that are fully vaccinated, and then um, so it's not looking good because President Joe Biden said by July 4th, so he would like to see 70% of the population get vaccinated. So this is what we have for tonight.
Okay, so nothing changed from 2 weeks ago since the last presentation we had 2 weeks ago. So we're going to start with you, Ed, asking the first question, and then you can jump in anytime, Dr. Calix. So the first question we have for you, Ed, what are the main reason our young people are not taking the vaccine?
Yeah.
What are you
So there's
hearing?
yeah, I'm hearing a lot of things. There's a couple of reasons why. Um, First, there's this notion that young people are invincible. We feel like that nothing can really stop us, and that if there isn't like a high risk of us, you know, either contracting severe symptoms or dying from COVID, that there's no need for us to even get the vaccine. Um, and with like statistics that have been going on in the news and online, it's mostly like older or with autoimmune illnesses who are more like susceptible to COVID. Um, Also, there's that is two shots, vaccine is two shots, and it's like a 10 to 14 day period where we have to still like take safety precautions. And most of us, we really want to go outside now. We really want to be out and just live our lives like it was before the pandemic. So most of us don't really want to wait and even take that second shot, or take the precautions needed necessary. And the third reason is like false information that's on social media. People, pushing these weird narratives that they can like become magnetized, or that COVID can lead to like weird. The vaccine can lead to like weird things. Like there's a lot of reasons. Those are like the main reasons I've seen.
So if I can recall, the first reason you said they're not taking it is because they feel like they can be COVID. Is that right?
Yes.
So the possibility of them, being in the hospital because of COVID or having complications. So because of that, they don't feel they have a need to take it. So what can you tell us about this, Dr. Callis? If that trend of thinking, because they're young, they have strong immune system, so there's not a need for them to take the vaccine. What can you tell us?
That's simply not true. Um, so the kids may have less severe symptoms, but there have been plenty of children that have been hospitalized and had
Mhm.
complications with COVID. We're just not People are just not aware of those numbers. They're just focusing on the adults, but there have been plenty of children hospitalized, even here on the Eastern Shore, with complications from COVID. Another thing, even if they do have minor symptoms of COVID, they can just give it to a relative who is older, and then that person themselves can end up having major complications. So yeah, the children may not themselves have severe complications, but then they can pass it on easily to family. And then that can cause even more problems for that particular adult, especially if it's an elderly one. So children are still can get affected just as well as adults, and they can then spread it to their family members. So it's not, oh, you can just think about yourselves, yes, but it's the whole community that you guys have to take into consideration. And that's what a lot of people are not thinking about. It's not just you, because that's how it spread as quickly as it did, because no one was thinking about, oh, I can easily pass this on to a lot of people because we're exposed to so many people on a day-to-day.
Yes.
Yes.
So it is a risk. It is a huge risk. Our young people are not taking the vaccine. As Dr. Khalid stated, the chance of transmitting it to someone who's vulnerable and who could end up being in the hospital is a reason enough for them to be vaccinated. And the goal is to have herd immunity, and we all have to take it. So we have enough people who have enough antibodies to fight the virus. So the transmission will be decreased, hospitalization will be decreased, and also mortality rate will be decreased. So again, we have to encourage every young person, young men, young women, please take the vaccine. When you do that, you're saving lives. Although you may not be the one who's going to be in the hospital, but when you take that step to take the vaccine, keep in mind you're saving life, because the chance of you transmitting it to someone else is decreased. So that is reason enough for us to continue, not only encourage other people, but actually take the vaccine. What other reason you mentioned as far as barriers of the young people not taking the vaccine, beside uh, being strong in immune system, is the fact is it's not relevant socially. They feel like the first dose, after the first dose, they feel like they equipped enough to go party and meet with their friends and enjoy life. And we can understand that, right, Dr. Calix? We can understand that. We've been pretty much cooking inside the house for over a year. So the anticipation, the urge to be outside, it's huge for all of us, not only the young people. If it's even more for them, because at this period of development, it's social interaction is so important. It's so important. And as parents, we see it when they reach 16, 17. Mom and dad are not important. The friends are important. So we understand how important it is, how they really ready to just have life back. Again, vaccinated. Vaccinated is going to be the answer. Vaccination is going to be the answer to just allow us to regain our normalcy and just have social interaction without having the fear that, oh my gosh, am I getting it? Am I transmitting it? That is, again, we have to go and get the vaccine. Anything else, Dr. Calix?
No, I agree. I know it is frustrating because it's 2 shots, but even after the first shot, you do have some degree of protection, which is increased more than having none. But obviously with the second shot is when we have the most efficacy. So it's really important to get that second shot. One is not enough. The only reason I would say not to get one is if you had a reaction to the first one, but those reactions have been minimal, and they have been keeping track of that. So that way we are monitoring that safely. But yeah, it's definitely important to get the 2 shots.
Yes. Anything else, Edlin? Anything else you're hearing from the community why the young people are not taking the vaccine? Any other barrier?
Oh, I will add this. I've heard a lot from the young people about infertility.
Yeah.
And that's a
Mhm.
myth. That's not true. I know plenty of people that have gotten pregnant in between the two shots. So obviously that's not true.
It is
Um,
true.
and it's not a reason to not get the shot.
That is true because one of our employee, she's a young person, about 20 years old. Until now, she hasn't taken the vaccine. And when I asked her why, she said, "I want to have kids. I don't want to take the risk." So again, I can understand the concern because the myth spread faster than the good news, and people tend to believe the false information. They believe it and they implement it. So not taking the vaccine is not a reason that will make you more fertile. I know a person who was vaccinated who's currently pregnant. So it is not true. So share with your friends. It's not true. The vaccine will not prevent you from getting pregnant. If that's the reason you are not taking the vaccine, again, it's one more barrier we need to just crash it because it's not true. It's just totally not true. Ed, what else you can tell us as far as other reluctance as far as the vaccination, and also how they reacting um, uh, in relation to the virus or the vaccine.
Yeah, I just um for most of the young people I've seen on social media, it's a lot of circulation of myths. Like different new ones every single day. Um, like backed by like false studies or just some unaccredited research about this vaccine. Like I hear people talk about microchips, especially with like communities of people of color, especially Black communities. There's some hesitancy to like trust the government and trust health institutions because of what's happened in the past. So people are just very hesitant to even trust in the government,
Mhm.
especially with all these incentives. Like I heard in Washington State, they're giving out joints, they're giving out guns to people like for free just to take the vaccine. So when you're giving out so much and you want people to do something very like you really want people to do something and you're giving out all these incentives, it's called to like raise suspicion.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mm.
So there's definitely a lot of distrust in the government and in the medical system due to the history that Blacks have gone through in this country. So I definitely understand that perspective. And I was actually talking to a medical assistant the other day, and I pointed out to her, I was like, I understand you're questioning this, but there isn't a separate vaccine for Blacks and for whites.
Mhm.
More whites are actually getting this vaccine
Yes.
than Blacks.
Yes.
So, and nothing has happened to them. So, I mean, if there was something happening to them, then we'd be concerned. But I mean, there's no way for them to separate or change the dose or change how the vaccine is made. It is what it is. There isn't a different thing, because I know people have suspicions that, oh, the Blacks are getting this one and whites are getting a different one. No, that's not a thing. Um, it's just not.
It's not.
Uh, it's not, and we can't change what happened in the past. And I know the incentives, they are, oh, I think a little outrageous myself personally. But if we think about what we have been through as a country in the past like year and a half, like we pretty much everything was shut down. And so
Yes.
everyone's just anxious to get back to some version of normalcy. And this is their way of trying to get there by pushing people to get vaccinated, because they know the benefits of the vaccine. And they know if we can get to some form of herd immunity, we can get back to having some form of normalcy. So I think that's why it's behind those incentives, although it's not being interpreted by a lot of people that way. I feel like that's really their main thought process, to try to get people to go. Because some people, when they hear, oh, I can get money, they will go, and they have gone. So they are working to some degree for some people. So everyone has their different degrees of what will get them to get vaccinated. For me, I mean, I'm around too many people, and I didn't want to put my patients or my family at risk. So that was motivating me to get vaccinated right away. I didn't even think about it. I was just like, no, I can't put the people that I'm taking care of and then my family at risk. So that was my motivating factor. But some people, they want to have a chance to win the lottery, and that's what got them there. I had a patient admit that to me the other day, and I was like, okay, that's great, but I'm glad you're vaccinated.
And just to say, the motivation for money and versus saving life, again, we have to keep in mind, we're trying to save life. That's the most important factor in taking the vaccine. So the main topic tonight, this is just the introduction. We're going to continue talking about vaccination every time we are here doing this presentation. So the main topic is, what is the impact of COVID in our mental health, especially the young people? How COVID impacted us mentally. So prior COVID, mental health problems, or not only because of stigma, people tend to isolate, really suffer in silence, deal with it silently. And put COVID on top of that, it's more than a crisis. It's a crisis on top of a crisis. So our young people are suffering. And again, we have Ed, who's giving us the perspective of the young people. And Edlin, I don't know what the first question you have for Ed as far as the impact of mental health since COVID, how our young people are impacted mentally.
Yes, since we know like it's a stigma in our community, the mental health, so it's something that we don't talk about it in church or in the house, like parents don't talk to their kids about mental health. But statistically, there like it's a lot of youth that suffer from mental health. So when we're talking about mental health, we're talking about anxiety, depression. Like we're not talking about being crazy. So yeah, so everybody have like a stage in life, so they're sad because if you lost your job, you have a bad grade, so that's gonna affect you. So you can get sad, and then the sadder you go, so that's how you get depressed. It's not anything like about craziness. So we know that the youth is already impact about the mental health. So adding COVID, so I think Eddie can explain us like how the COVID affecting the young people, especially the young men.
Yeah. Yeah, I can definitely speak to that. For those who don't know, I think this week is Men's Health Week. It's an awareness for like men's health, mental health. Before even
You do your research.
but like even before the pandemic, it was like already an epidemic in the United States with mental health leading cause and the death of young people, suicide. That's especially prevalent in men, just the factors and how men are treated, how we are supposed to act, especially according gender norms. But yeah, COVID just like amplified anxiety, depression. It forced us in a way by quarantining to um, um, seclude ourselves from our society to be, with our thoughts. And these thoughts are like can be very like harmful. They can be intrusive. They can just, when we don't have that support system, when we don't have face-to-face interaction, it's like being human beings. That's what we thrive on. Like if you don't have interaction, like you're like more likely to go like crazy, insane. So like when you're battling these thoughts and when you're battling like these like anxiety and stuff like that, it's important to have that connection. I feel like COVID stripped us away from having that. Some people not being in school, they didn't have access to friends or counselors. Yeah, hopefully like we can like find ourselves back like when everything opened up that we can like, you know, communicate, get things back to normal. But like COVID definitely took like a huge toll on like the young health, the young people's like psyche mentality.
Wow. Wow.
Yes, you are correct, Ed. Um, young people, I know several families personally where children were suicidal. And this is the reason we're having this conversation, because mental illness is fatal, depression is fatal, anxiety is fatal. That is the reason we're talking about it. Yes, the society pretty much keep us locked down as far as talking, allow ourselves to be vulnerable and share with people even living with us that we're dealing with some depression and the symptoms that we should look for as parents, or even you, Ed, you have close friends, symptoms of depression is what you need to remember and to look for it. When you see someone is withdrawing, staying home more, because of COVID, we couldn't access that because we were all staying home. So that part of depression where people tend to isolate themselves, not trying to reach out to other people, losing interest in doing things that they used to love doing. That's another sign. Crying a lot, eating a lot or not eating, sleeping a lot or not sleeping, all of these signs are signs of depression. And sometimes as parents, we tend to think like our kids are lazy. They staying in their room, they lose motivation. Academically, we see a shift. They're not doing so well. That's another sign. Instead of running and said, oh, yell at them, say they lazy, they not doing well in school. Ask question, ask them what's going on. I think the first thing is to pretty much try to have an open conversation and ask question as far as what are they feeling? Just that first question. How are you feeling? What's going on? I'm noticing you look sad. You're not yourself. That's another way you can put it. So people don't feel too sensitive about it, because once you put the label and they tend to pull back and not want to share. So just simple question, how are you feeling? I notice you're not like yourself. So we have to be able to check, do a mental check on each other, and be able to pick on depression very early, because yes, if when especially with COVID, we lost so many people are grieving, which is another reason we are impacted mentally. So with right cause, if people are grieving, it's okay to be sad, but if the sadness is lingering, it's a month that you see they're not bouncing back to be like themselves, that's another sign of they could be dealing with depression. So grief COVID brought so much grief on us. So we will be unhuman not to feel depressed. And I believe all of us were impacted mentally, including myself.
Mhm.
All of us, we will be unhuman not to feel down and wondering what's next, how life is going to be back to normal, especially our kids at home, academically. They were not doing so good. That's even not only it's affecting the child mentally, it's affecting the parent as well mentally. So depression is so huge in our community. And the fact that as a community, we don't deal well with it, we don't deal well with it at all. First of all, we don't believe that people should seek treatment. That's another way we have to break those barriers and encourage people to seek for help, ask for help. And also us who are living with the people we are living with, pick on the signs of depression. Dr. Calix, I would like to transition to you and add whatever you want to add on with this topic.
Um, yeah, it definitely has been a challenge since, um, the teens have not been in school to have those access to the counselors, the social workers available to them. That I have seen firsthand, with teens that have come into the office to see me, saying that, it's been very isolating for them, which has been a challenge. Um, and we can all relate to that because we've had to all, um, isolate ourselves to some degree because of the restrictions that were in place. Um,
Yes.
but especially when you're trying to learn as a learning environment, being in school, that was definitely a challenge. Remote learning was not ideal for a lot of people. So the
Yes.
stress of that on top of, the depression and the anxiety played a toll on a lot of, the children that I've been seeing in the office. So having that family support and understanding is definitely key to getting them through that, and acknowledging that they're not the only ones feeling like that also made a huge impact. But obviously talking about the options available if you don't want to necessarily be in an office, there's so many different apps out there now for mental health that teens can easily get on their phones, don't have to worry about it. So I've definitely brought that up several times to my teens, like, look, you could just get on your phone and just go here, and you could even text a counselor if you want to have this service versus going into an office and talking to someone. So at least you can talk through what you're feeling, as a way to cope through this, because we're all going through it. And I feel just having that constant reassurance that you're not the only one, we're all going through this, and letting them know that there are plenty of other resources out there to help them get through this, because we're taking this all day, one day at a time.
Yes.
It is a-okay for you not to have a direct path or know what to do, because not everyone responds to face-to-face therapy or knows how to communicate efficiently, and it takes them time. So patience is definitely key.
Correct. Ed, we want to come back to you because we want to hear a lot from you because you are the young person representing your peers. So beside what other ways depression, the pandemic impacted us mentally and especially in our young people? What's going on beside feeling depressed? What else is going on in with our young people
Um,
mentally?
yeah, yeah. Social media definitely plays a part in that. There's a feeling of wanting to present your way and present yourself in a certain way, and like people are, not everyone's happy, but people like want to like go out. Things. It it can be like straining on your mind to like try to be someone else and you're not. Try to look at people being happy and enjoying life, even though you don't really know what they're going through. It's a thing that can be like kind of damaging. I think uh, something that can like help fight depression is transparency. When you can like communicate with people and you can find common ground and people can tell you like what they're going through and it's the same as you, and that helps in your own battle. But like as you can see on social media, there's there's like a disconnect. There's people, social media is like can be a very toxic environment, just in general. Honestly, that's never good. That's never good for you, like your mental health.
Yes, too much social media definitely is impacting us even more in a negative way mentally. We become addicted because yes, there's no social interaction outside, so we connect through social media and we're feeding ourselves. Some therapists will say, take a break, don't, especially at the early stage of COVID, we were all worried. We were all like freaking out. So we had to take what, let me stop watching TV. Let me stop watching the news, feeding your mind with all that negative, those negative stuff. It definitely impacted us mentally, especially our young people. And what about substance abuse, Ed?
Um,
What are you
yeah,
hearing, uh, the impact as far as our young people getting involved more in self-medicating with, substance abuse and drugs and stuff? What can you tell us about that?
yeah, that just put my mind like that. It just seems so normal for me. I know it's hard for like adults to like realize that, but like seeing my colleagues or seeing people like my age just doing drugs or whatever, it just seems normal. I don't even think that's a symptom of the pandemic, but it is. Obviously, we're also going through another crisis, which is the opioid
Yes.
crisis, and
Hmm.
people are taking like herbs or pills, and these pills are laced with fentanyl. Fentanyl is like extremely like fatal, and deadly. But also, I see people that I wouldn't have thought of taking substances to just try to self medicate, diagnose themselves because they feel like that in a way it provides an escape. It provides like stress relief, and yeah, I've seen that a lot, and it's kind of sad to watch to see us rely on these substances instead of going. I feel like that's probably an easier route, but also more damaging in the long run. Instead of tackling these problems, just trying to find help, talk out these problems, because though at first that way may seem like very challenging, it's very beneficial.
Anything before I say anything else, Dr. Calix, about that? Anything you want to say? Edlin,
Um,
anyone can jump in.
there definitely has been a rise in overdoses and deaths since the start of COVID, especially
Mhm.
here on the Eastern Shore. At least I can say for that because I have heard of a lot of cases from the health department. So that is definitely a huge problem that we have come up against because that's how people are coping. Like I said,
Mhm.
is by using drugs, which is not ideal. So that is definitely something that even the governor has stressed as the importance of um, the importance of mental health providers and just more primary care providers providing these mental health services because they knew there is such a need because of COVID that um, we need to address these things. So it's,
Definitely,
yeah.
definitely. And as parents, it's it's the worst nightmare of any parent,
Mm-hmm.
knowing your child is dealing with substance abuse. And it's not easy to stop because by whatever way they started, stopping is another issue. So if you know anyone dealing with substance abuse and dealing with depression, please seek help, ask for help, talk to someone. And sometimes it's not the best way to confront the person. You have to use tact to allow them to feel comfortable to actually admit. Because if we don't know, we probably will ignore it because we don't know if they're taking drugs. Our kids, they staying home. How? I know several that are dealing with substance abuse right now. Some of them started smoking marijuana because of anxiety. I had one patient who told me the only time I'm able to sleep is when I smoke weed. So these are the things that our young people are facing and dealing with. And they need to know that there's help, and we are here to help and support, encourage them to seek help. The time is approaching, and we don't want not to address treatment. And I'm gonna uh, allow Dr. Calix to talk about treatment a little bit before our time is up.
So treatment as against, Imani, just want to clarify, treatment in regards
Treatment
to
for mental health.
for mental health, yeah. So your pediatrician, family medicine doc, your nurse practitioner is a great primary resource if you do not know where to go. There's also the crisis hotline that's available 24 hours for you to call if you have an issue and you cannot reach anyone or don't know who to reach. The health department also has numerous resources, whichever county you are in, for behavioral health resources that are free and at no cost. So if you do not have insurance or don't know or whatever else, the health department is a great resource for behavioral health services. There are also various mental health practices. There may be a delay to get you in due to the increased amount of people seeking mental health services, but just calling is the number one step. You call and see, like, who's available to see someone if that is what you need or want.
Yes, it is so important. It can be treated. Substance abuse can be treated. Depression can be treated. Anxiety can be treated. So do not try to self-medicating with drugs and alcohol. We know it's a difficult time, and sometimes you just don't know how to deal with how you feeling, and especially if you cannot share it with someone, so you try to fix the problem. So do not try to fix the problem yourself. And if you feel like there's a problem, talk to an adult, talk to your parents, talk to a friend. Maybe if you don't feel comfortable talking to your mom or dad, if share with somebody who may be able to bring it to their attention. So there is help. There is help. So do not suffer alone. And we are here to help. And that is the reason we're having this conversation. So again, myself, I'm a provider. Dr. Calix is a provider. I am from Efata Medical Care Services. We have two clinics, one in Tacoma Park, Maryland, and one in Seaford, Delaware. Dr. Calix is a board certified family physician who's also able. Try to reach out, and there's a big news to be announced, but we're not going to say anything yet. So Dr. Calix is here in Salisbury, and she's available to assist any young person. She's a young physician, and she's Haitian. So there's a way you can communicate with her. So please reach out. Reach out. We are here to assist. Edlin, anything else you want to say in closing?
Well, we see the time is running out, so we would like to thank everybody. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Thank you, Dr. Calix. Thank you, Eddie. Thank you, Sir Imani. Nou vle fè moun yo sonje ke emisyon sa li patrone pa IPATA Medical Services et puis Rebirth. So, Sir Imani, ou pa bay téléphone ou non?
Oh, merci, Sir Edlin. Téléphone nou, Nancy Ford, c'est 302 444 01 90. Encore 302 444 01 90. C'était un plaisir pour nous être sur la plateforme Rebirth pour partager avec la communauté. C'est passion nous et nous sommes toujours là, disponibles et disposés pour nous qui est communauté à informer. Et encore, merci pour écouter nous. À la prochaine.
Merci. Passez un bon week-end. Nous souhaitons tout le monde passer un bon week-end.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Bye.